I arrived in Paris with a suitcase full of dreams, my heart pounding with excitement and nerves. The city's name alone conjured up images of moonlit walks along the Seine, croissants at sunrise, and a kind of effortless elegance I'd only seen in movies. My French vocabulary, however, was mostly borrowed from perfume adverts and the occasional phrasebook. I could say Chanel and eau de toilette with confidence, but not much else. Eau de toilette, I'd whisper, which I learned is not helpful when finding your hotel. The receptionist just smiled politely, probably used to lost tourists with misplaced priorities. Paris, the city of love, the city of light, the city where every street corner seems to promise adventure, and every evening feels like it could be the start of a story. From my hotel window though, it was mostly the city of a very gray building. Not quite the postcard view I'd imagined, but I told myself it was all part of the authentic Parisian experience. My expectations were sky high thanks to decades of Hollywood films and glossy travel magazines. I'd pictured myself living out a scene from a classic romance, every moment bathed in golden light. My first impression stepping out of Charles de Gaulle was that the magic was stuck in traffic. The air was thick with car horns and the scent of jet fuel, not quite the Parisian perfume I'd hoped for. The journey into the city was a masterclass in aggressive driving and horn usage. I clung to my seat as taxis weaved through impossibly narrow streets, drivers shouting in rapid French. The hotel was charmingly compact, French for you can touch all four walls from the bed. My suitcase barely fit, but I convinced myself it was cozy, not cramped. The lift was ancient. The room had a certain, which I think meant a faint, unidentifiable smell. Maybe it was history, or maybe just last night's cheese plate. But I was in Paris, determined to be enchanted, even if the only light I saw was the smoke detector blinking. I was ready to find the magic, no matter how well it hid itself. I stood at my window, looked out at the gray wall and thought, let's go find some of that famous romance and light. After all, Paris is a city best discovered on foot, with an open mind and a sense of humor. Little did I know confusion would find me first, but maybe, just maybe, that's where the real adventure begins. My first mission in Paris, breakfast. It sounded so simple, so delightfully cinematic. I pictured myself gliding into a charming bakery, exchanging a few effortless words in French, and gliding out with a golden croissant in hand, just like in the movies. I'd seen the films. You walk into a boulangerie, smile, and emerge with a perfect croissant, the envy of every tourist. Armed with a battered phrasebook and a shaky sense of confidence, I ventured out. The air was thick with the scent of fresh bread, butter, and a hint of car exhaust, quintessentially Parisian, and somehow both magical and intimidating. I found a bakery, its windows fogged with warmth, and inside a stern-looking woman presided over the counter like a gatekeeper to all things delicious. Bonjour, I began, trying to sound sophisticated but mostly just terrified. Je voudrais un croissant? My accent was probably a crime against the French language. She stared at me with a look that was equal parts pity and amusement, then replied in a rapid-fire stream of French. I caught none of it, not a single word. My brain short-circuited. I panicked and just pointed at the nearest pastry. "That one?" I squeaked, my voice barely above a whisper. She handed me the croissant with a sigh. But before I could escape, I realized I needed coffee. Of course, the adventure wasn't over yet. Un café? I tried, my voice trembling. She nodded, then unleashed another barrage of French. I nodded back, pretending to understand, hoping for the best. That's how I ended up with a thimble-sized espresso so strong it could probably power a small car, or at least keep me awake for the rest of my trip. I paid with a 20 for a €3 purchase, earning another withering look and a mountain of coins I had no idea how to count. The humiliation was now complete. I mumbled a shaky merci and scurried out, clutching my slightly crushed croissant and dare-level espresso, feeling both triumphant and utterly defeated. This was it. I was conquering Paris, one mortifying interaction at a time. Each awkward moment was a tiny victory, a badge of honor for the clueless traveler. The croissant, though, was glorious, flaky, buttery, and warm, almost worth the humiliation. Almost. I savored every bite, determined to remember the taste more than the embarrassment. Paris had already served me a slice of humble pie, with extra butter, and maybe a side of existential dread. But I was learning slowly how to laugh at myself. But I was undeterred. I had a city to explore and 1,000 more chances to embarrass myself. Each misstep was just another story to tell. I took a deep breath, ready for whatever came next. Paris was unpredictable, but so was I. Surely the worst was behind me, right? Or maybe, just maybe, the real adventure was only beginning. Fueled by my jet fuel espresso and pastry of shame, my next goal, the Eiffel Tower. The Paris metro looked simple on paper, just colored lines and dots. I descended into the underground, facing a ticket machine with more buttons than a spaceship. After jabbing at the screen and holding up the line, a kind soul pressed 3 buttons and handed me a ticket. Now, the labyrinth of corridors. Signs pointed everywhere, my map was a crumpled mess. I followed a crowd, hopped on a train, and felt proud. Until I realized I was going the wrong way. I got off, switched trains, repeated this cycle twice more. 90 minutes later I finally emerged near the Eiffel Tower. The journey should have taken 20. Paris had bested me again, but I was still standing, and the Eiffel Tower was finally in sight. After my epic metro misadventure, seeing the Eiffel Tower was a relief. There it was. Massive, intricate, and surrounded by a sea of tourists. I joined the queue for the lift, which snaked endlessly. The true Parisian experience, waiting. The line was a melting pot of languages, all expressing the same sentiment. Are we moving yet? After what felt like ages, I made it to the lift, packed in like sardines. The ascent was breathtaking, the view even more so. Paris sprawled below, the Seine, the Louvre, the Arc de Triomphe. I jostled for a spot at the railing, elbows and selfie sticks everywhere. I took the obligatory photos, pointed at distant landmarks, and marveled at the engineering. But the real spectacle was the crowd, everyone united in collective tourism. As I descended, I felt accomplished. I'd survived the metro, conquered the queue, and seen the view. I was a proper tourist now, blurry photos and all. Paris was starting to feel a little more real, and a lot more crowded. Next stop, the Louvre, home to priceless art and another epic queue. I emerged in front of the glass pyramid, surrounded by tourists trying to touch its tip in photos. Inside, the Louvre is less a museum, more a small country. My plan: see the Mona Lisa, Venus de Milo, and Winged Victory. Rookie mistake. The crowd swept me along to the Mona Lisa, a tiny painting behind glass mobbed by a sea of phones. I snapped a blurry photo of the crowd taking photos and called it a win. Venus de Milo was calmer. I had a few quiet moments before another tour group descended. I wandered through galleries of Egyptian sarcophagi and enormous French paintings. After 2 hours, art fatigue set in. Every masterpiece blurred together. My brain was full. Time for food, Parisian culture absorbed. Now to survive Parisian cuisine, and maybe find a chair. Culture absorbed, my stomach demanded lunch. I wandered the streets searching for an authentic meal. The menus were a mystery. Intestine sausage, blood sausage, calf's head. Appetite gone, I played it safe, a bistro with red checked tablecloths. Croquet, monsieur, ham and cheese, safe territory, I ordered, pointing at the menu to avoid disaster. The sandwich arrived, oozing cheese, toasted bread, delicious. The key to French cuisine: stick to bread and cheese. I watched stylish Parisians stroll by, feeling momentarily at peace. Then the bill came. For a sandwich and Coke, the price was surprising. Paris was expensive. My wallet felt lighter. I understood why locals just drank coffee. The authentic Parisian experience comes at a premium. Next time I'd try a supermarket, or just more croissants. After my pricey lunch, I tried the most Parisian activity, sitting at a cafe, doing nothing. I found the perfect spot, arranged myself in a nonchalant pose, and ordered a café crème. I tried to look bored, intellectual, and mysterious. My performance lasted 10 minutes before a pigeon landed nearby, staring me down. My thoughtful gaze became a "please don't poop on my coffee" stare. The illusion of sophistication crumbled. I tried to get the waiter's attention with a subtle nod. Nothing. A bigger nod. Still nothing. A discreet wave. Ignored. Finally, I waved like I was flagging down a rescue helicopter. The waiter saw me instantly, with a look that said I knew it all along. My attempt to blend in had failed spectacularly. But at least I got my bill. And a story. With my cafe dreams in tatters, I took a walk along the Seine at sunset. The famous Parisian light finally appeared, golden over the city. Couples dangled their legs over the water, artists painted bridges, boats glided by. It was picturesque, until the sirens, traffic, and river smells reminded me this was a real city. The bouquinistes sold old books and plastic souvenirs side by side. I watched a couple attach a love lock, a man try to sell them a rose, students laughing over cheap wine. Manufactured romance and genuine connection all at once. I found a bench and just watched. For the first time, I didn't feel like an outsider. The pressure to do Paris right faded. Paris wasn't a checklist, it was a living, complicated place, and I was starting to like it, a lot. As darkness fell, I returned to my tiny hotel room, tucked away on a narrow Parisian street that glowed with the soft, golden light of evening. The city outside was alive, but I was exhausted. My feet ached from wandering cobblestone alleys, my wallet was crying after too many splurges on pastries and metro tickets, and my French was still terrible, no matter how many times I rehearsed bonjour in my head. By all measures, the day was a series of small, comical disasters, missed turns, misunderstood menus, and a parade of awkward moments that seemed to follow me everywhere. I'd been humbled by a baker who raised an eyebrow at my accent, defeated by a ticket machine that refused my coins, overwhelmed by art so grand it made me dizzy, and outsmarted by a waiter who seemed to know exactly what I was about to do wrong. Yet, despite it all, I was smiling. The city felt different now, less like a postcard, more like a living, breathing place that had let me in on its secrets. It was a place where I had a story, one that was uniquely mine, shaped by every misstep and every unexpected delight. Not the graceful romantic moments from the movies, where everything is perfect and effortless, but real, funny, messy moments, spilled coffee, botched selfies, and laughter that echoed down the street. Paris wasn't the perfect fantasy I'd imagined. It was something far more interesting, more alive, and more unpredictable. The chaos, the crowds, the endless swirl of languages and laughter, the confusing maps and the feeling of being lost, it was all part of the package, and somehow, it made the city feel more real. Paris doesn't hand you its beauty on a silver platter. It makes you work for it, climb for it, and sometimes, get a little lost for it. That night, as the Eiffel Tower sparkled in the distance, if I leaned out my window just far enough, I felt a quiet sense of victory. I realized I hadn't conquered Paris at all. Paris had conquered me in the best possible way. I came for the city of light and love, for the dream I'd seen in films and postcards, but I was leaving with a fondness for the real thing, the imperfect, unforgettable, utterly human Paris. And I knew, as I counted my last coins and savored the memory of a simple sandwich, that I'd be back, after saving up for another taste of this glorious, expensive chaos.